You are not a name, not anymore. You are a body, confined within stone walls, behind curtains that no longer part. You are silence in a palace built to echo. You are the daughter of a king. But tonight, you are only a vessel. The year is 1793. The court outside feasts by candlelight, toasts to treaties, whispers of marriages yet to come. But in this sealed chamber, you bleed onto linen, your breath jagged, your fists clenched around nothing. No midwife speaks your name. No priest enters with blessings. No one dares. The walls have grown used to your stillness. They watched you pace, scream, sob. Now they listen as a sound they've never known fills the air, the shrill, fragile cry of a newborn. You clutch the child to your chest, warm, trembling, impossibly real. But the silence around you does not break. No one rushes in. No bells toll for a birth. You do not ask for the father. You do not ask for your name. Outside, the guards change shift without meeting each other's eyes. Inside, your tears fall, not from pain, but from the certainty that this room is both cradle and tomb. For the story ends here, not with joy, not even scandal, but with forgetting. You want to speak, but you were never meant to be heard. Somewhere in the folds of European history, a name was erased, not by violence, but by silence. She was a princess. She gave birth behind locked doors, and no record ever dared to ask who the father was. No record even asked if she lived. This is not just a forgotten tale. It is an echo, a murmur that reaches us from a time when lineage mattered more than love, when obedience silenced truth, and when a woman's body could be hidden, even while giving life. At Echoes of the Past, we uncover these stories, the ones buried under marble and shame. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you've been walking these halls with us already, thank you. Wherever you're listening from, London, Manila, Buenos Aires, Hanoi, I'd love to know, had you ever heard of this story before? If not, stay. Let's open the door together. To understand the silence, you must first understand the sound that came before it. The European courts of the 18th century were never quiet. They hummed with ritual, layers of lace rustling down corridors, heels striking marble in practiced rhythm. The constant rustle of paper, invitations, decrees, betrothals, births. Nothing happened without record. Nothing moved without permission. And at the center of it all was the body of the royal woman. She was trained to sit without slouching, to smile without baring teeth, to dance without leading. Her value, whispered behind tapestries, was in her bloodline and her womb. A daughter of royalty was not just a child. She was a bargaining chip, a future alliance, a signature wrapped in skin. Our princess was born into this architecture of expectation. From infancy, her days were scheduled by the hour. Languages, embroidery, scripture, etiquette. Her future husband had been discussed since she was 8. At 13, she knew how to curtsy before kings and hold eye contact without speaking first. At 15, she was told, "Your destiny lies in your purity." But what happens when that purity is questioned? In many European courts, Austrian, Spanish, French alike, scandal could be worse than death. A royal woman who became pregnant outside of marriage did not merely violate social norms, she threatened dynastic legitimacy. If no one could name the father, how could they trust the child? And if they couldn't trust the child, the lineage could fall apart like a tapestry with one thread cut. There were protocols for everything: funerals, weddings, coronations, but not for this. Some courts dealt with it quietly, a rushed wedding to a distant cousin, others with exile to a countryside manor or convent under the vague excuse of illness. But in rare, chilling cases, the princess stayed, not in the throne room, in a locked wing of the palace, neither celebrated nor punished, just removed. Our princess, unnamed by historians, seems to have been one of these. Her name appears in baptismal records, then in royal court diaries, then nothing. No wedding announcement, no portrait, no funeral. Just a note in a ledger. Moved to the East Wing for recovery. And later, the room remains sealed. We don't know how she became pregnant. Was it love? Was it coercion? A court musician? A guard? A cousin? The records are silent. But that silence was a choice. No investigations, no inquiries, not even whispers in the memoirs of ladies-in-waiting. Her story simply stopped. Or rather, it was stopped. And the baby, some rumors say the child was sent to a rural family with a generous pension. Others claim the infant died within days, buried in unmarked ground. One source, discovered in a hidden drawer decades later, references a boy with unusual eyes, raised by nuns, but nothing is certain. No name, no grave, because to name is to acknowledge, and to acknowledge would mean admitting a scandal not even time was allowed to forgive. She was 17 when the portraits stopped. Until then, the court painters had captured her every spring, her figure in soft ivory silk, her eyes always downcast, her hands always folded. The kingdom liked to see her that way, unspoiled, decorous, almost sacred. In public, she moved like someone underwater, every gesture rehearsed, every gaze measured. She walked not to cross space, but to maintain poise. The women of the court envied her embroidery. The men whispered of her future. And her father, the king, looked at her as a ledger of potential treaties, not as a daughter. But behind the veils, a life flickered. There are faint mentions of a tutor, a man from the provinces, older, with dark hair and unreadable eyes. He taught her languages, perhaps music. They spent long hours in the conservatory. The same servant delivered tea to the same window seat. No letters survive, no journal. But later the Queen's Chamberlain would mention, in a sealed deposition, a change in the girl's posture, as if she began to live inside herself. Then, a cancelled ball, a postponed engagement, rumors of delicate health. The whispers began, but the silence drowned them. When she began to show, the real erasure began. She was moved, one winter evening, to the East Wing, the same corridor where an aunt once died of scarlet fever, the same corridor with no mirrors, no visitors, only stone. 2 guards were posted at the far end, rotated every 6 hours. Inside, she was assigned 2 attendants, women too old to gossip and too loyal to speak. Food arrived through a narrow hatch in the wall. No court physician was summoned, only a traveling midwife, brought in under the pretense of treating a minor lady with a persistent cough. The princess was not spoken to, only spoken around. Her belly swelled, her skin turned pale, but her hands remained graceful, and her eyes never lost their clarity. She spent most of her time by the window, watching crows gather on the rooftop garden below. Sometimes she would whisper to them. Sometimes she would sing. And then, one morning, in the dead of winter, she gave birth. The attendants did what they were told. The midwife left before dawn. The baby cried. The princess wept. No names were given. When it was over, The child was taken from her arms. She was told nothing. Not whether the baby lived, not where it would go. She asked once, just once. The reply was, "Your father requests silence." She remained in the East Wing for 2 more years. No new clothes were tailored. Her hair grew long and uneven. Her lessons ceased. Once a week, she received a single letter from her mother, blank parchment sealed with the royal crest. Sometimes she would hold it to her chest, then set it on fire without reading. Her name was not spoken in court. Guests were told she was traveling. The portraits were moved to a lesser gallery. Her apartments were converted to guest rooms. Her dog, a spaniel named Amélie, was sent to the Queen's niece. And so, the princess became a ghost. But she did not disappear. One evening, the guards reported music, faint, trembling notes from a stringed instrument, though no instrument had been left in the room. The next night, the notes returned, fuller, steadier, a lullaby, perhaps. It continued for weeks. The guards rotated more frequently. The Queen requested prayers, but no one opened the door. Then, one morning, silence again. The music stopped. The window curtains were drawn. The room returned to stillness. No one saw her again. Years later, after the king's death, the court commissioned a new census of noble bloodlines. Her name was absent. A junior archivist noted the omission. He inquired with the royal historian. The reply was swift. There was no such daughter. But in the palace, among servants and old retainers, the memory flickered. A former maid claimed to have seen a girl in a grey cloak leaving by carriage at dawn. A stable boy remembered a child with black curls being handed to a veiled woman. A retired physician confessed on his deathbed that he had signed a birth certificate, but never saw the child again. No records survive. The room remained locked for decades. Visitors were told it had mold. Renovations always skipped it. It wasn't until the monarchy fell that someone dared to open the East Wing. Inside, dust, a single cracked mirror, a set of sheets, untouched, and carved faintly into the stone wall behind the headboard. Je me souviens. I remember. The last sound she made was not a cry. It was music. When the East Wing was finally opened, decades later, after revolutions, abdications, and republics, the room was still. But in one corner, beneath a faded tapestry, they found a child's music box. Broken, wound too tightly. Some say she died there. Others believe she was taken to a convent, where the nuns were forbidden to speak her name. A few argue she escaped, her lineage hidden behind another's surname, her child perhaps surviving as someone else's heir. But the truth may never be known, because silence, once chosen, tends to echo louder than words. Her father never spoke of her again. Neither did her mother. When asked by a visiting dignitary how many children she had, the Queen answered, 2 sons, 1 joy and a sorrow that never existed. The lineage continued. The throne passed on. Portraits were commissioned again. Marriages were arranged. Alliances signed. But deep within the palace, that room remained locked. A sealed chamber, holding no secrets and all of them. A room where time stopped, not because it had to, but because no one wanted it to move forward. And what of the child? Some say he became a poet, his verses filled with images of windows that never open and mothers who speak only through song. Others claim she was a girl, raised in a foreign court, unaware that her blood carried scandal. Most likely, no one survived, or if they did, they were taught to forget. And yet, in every monarchy, There is a gap, a name skipped in the genealogy, a daughter that does not appear, a locked room in a castle no one visits, a lullaby no one remembers learning. And if you listen closely, not with ears, but with memory, you might still hear it. The song of a girl who gave birth in silence. The breath of a child who never cried again. The weight of a secret no one dared carry, except her. History has a habit of forgetting women who do not serve its preferred storylines. A princess who disobeyed, a mother without a husband, a body that did what bodies naturally do, but in the wrong room, at the wrong time, with the wrong witness. Such figures are often erased not through scandal, but through omission. And yet, haven't we seen echoes of her? In the girl whose pregnancy is called a failure. In the woman dismissed from her job for being distracting. In the survivor whose silence is mistaken for complicity. In the mother who cannot name the father. Not because she doesn't know, but because no one will believe her. We build systems to protect power, to preserve appearances. And those systems still, subtly or brutally, teach certain people to vanish when they no longer fit the design. What does it cost to lock a woman away rather than let her speak? What does it say about us when lineage matters more than humanity? Sometimes the punishment is exile. Sometimes it is a forced smile. Sometimes it is just a room, closed for so long that no one remembers what was lost inside. We don't know who that princess truly was. We don't know who the father was, or where the child went. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some silences in history aren't accidents. Maybe they were crafted, brick by brick, generation by generation. Maybe we are still living inside rooms that haven't yet been opened. So we ask again, how many names are still missing from the record? And how many more will we allow to disappear? The room is gone now. The castle was repurposed, the stones reused, the history rewritten. Tourists walk past its former wing unaware of what once happened there. No plaque marks the door, no cradle remains, but stories, like whispers, find cracks. Sometimes it begins with a question. Was there ever a daughter? And in the dust of forgotten records, we see her, not clearly, but enough. A girl with tired eyes and a lullaby in her throat. A mother who never got to say the child's name out loud. A woman erased not by death, but by decree. In the end, it's not the silence that haunts. It's the fact that we accepted it. So tell me, had you ever heard of this story before? And more importantly, how many others still wait to be remembered? If her voice moved something in you, share it. Let her echo reach places silence was never meant to rule.